Murphy's Law. It states that anything that can go wrong will go wrong. Imagine you're getting ready for an important online meeting. You check your internet connection, make sure your laptop is fully charged, and even prepare your notes. But just as the meeting starts, your internet goes out, or your computer suddenly needs to update. That's Murphy's Law in action. Or think about cooking a big dinner for guests. You've planned everything perfectly, bought all the ingredients, and started cooking early. But then, the oven stops working, or you accidentally burn the main dish. Despite all your preparations, something goes wrong at the last moment, demonstrating Murphy's Law. Keeping this law in mind, you just expect the unexpected. Parkinson's Law. It states that work expands to fill the time available for its completion. Think about a student who has a month to complete a school project. Rather than finishing it early, they procrastinate and end up using all the available time, often finishing just before the deadline. The project took much longer than it needed to, demonstrating Parkinson's Law. This law also states that the more time you have, the more time you waste. Occam's razor. It states that the simplest explanation is usually the correct one. Imagine you wake up to find your phone isn't charging. You might think it's a complicated issue with the battery or the phone itself, but then you check the charger and realize it's not plugged in properly. The simplest explanation, a loose connection, was the correct one. That's Occam's razor in action. Or think about losing your TV remote. You might start thinking it was misplaced in another room or accidentally thrown away, but then you find it under the couch cushion where it often falls. The simplest explanation, that it slipped into a common spot, was correct. This demonstrates Occam's razor. It teaches us that simplicity is the ultimate sophistication, the Peter Principle. It states that people in a hierarchy rise to their level of incompetence. Think about a great schoolteacher who is promoted to the position of principal. While they excelled in the classroom, the administrative duties and leadership responsibilities of being a principal are overwhelming and different from teaching. They were promoted to their level of incompetence, demonstrating the Peter Principle. Or, think about a skilled software developer who is promoted to a project manager. They were great at coding, but managing timelines, coordinating with clients, and handling team dynamics proved to be challenging. They were promoted to their level of incompetence, demonstrating the Peter Principle, the Pareto Principle. It states that 80% of the effects come from 20% of the causes. Imagine cleaning your house. You notice that 80% of the mess comes from just 20% of the areas, like the kitchen and the living room. By focusing your cleaning efforts on these key areas, you can make your home look much cleaner with less effort. That's the Pareto Principle in action. Or, think about your wardrobe. You realize that you wear 20% of your clothes 80% of the time. By organizing and prioritizing these frequently worn items, you can simplify your morning routine and make getting dressed easier. This demonstrates the Pareto Principle, the Dilbert Principle. It states that the most ineffective workers are systematically moved to the place where they can do the least damage. Imagine you work at a retail store and there's an employee who is terrible at dealing with customers and always makes mistakes at the cash register. Instead of firing them, the store manager promotes them to a back office position where they don't have to interact with customers directly. The idea is to minimize the harm they can do. That's the Dilbert Principle in action. The law of truly large numbers. It states that, with a large enough sample size, any outrageous thing is likely to happen. Imagine buying lottery tickets. If you buy just one ticket, the chances of winning are extremely low. However, if millions of people buy tickets every week, it becomes very likely that someone will win. That's the law of truly large numbers in action. Or, think about flipping a coin. If you flip it only a few times, getting heads 5 times in a row seems highly unlikely. But if you flip a coin thousands of times, you're bound to see long streaks of heads or tails just by chance. This demonstrates the law of truly large numbers. This law is how people are able to do crazy trick shots, Hofstadter's law. It states that it always takes longer than you expect. Imagine you are planning to renovate your kitchen. You estimate that it will take about 2 weeks to complete. You factor in potential delays, thinking it might take a bit longer. However, unforeseen issues like supply shortages and unexpected repairs extend the project to over a month. That's Hofstadter's law in action. Or think about writing a report for work. You give yourself extra time, anticipating that there might be distractions or additional research needed. Even with this buffer, you find yourself rushing to finish at the last minute because more complexities arose than you had planned for. This law tells us that time estimates are always optimistic. Sturgeon's law. It states that 90% of everything is crud. Imagine browsing through social media. You scroll past countless posts, videos, and ads that don't interest you or seem poorly made. Only a small percentage of the content catches your attention and feels worthwhile. That's Sturgeon's law in action. Or think about trying new TV shows. You may start watching several shows, but quickly realize that most of them aren't engaging or well produced. Only a few stand out as truly enjoyable and high quality. We discover from this law that the good stuff is hard to find. Tesla's law. It states that a system's complexity grows until it surpasses the capability of its human operators. Think about a simple TV remote. It starts with basic buttons like power, volume, and channel. As new features are added, the remote becomes cluttered with buttons for streaming services, DVR controls, and more. It becomes so complex that it's hard to use without constantly referring to the manual. This demonstrates Tesla's law. It reminds us that simplicity is lost over time, the law of least effort. It states that people will naturally choose the path of least resistance or effort. Imagine you have two routes to walk to the store. One is a long, scenic path, and the other is a short, direct path. Most people will choose the shorter, easier route to save time and effort. That's the law of least effort in action. Or think about studying for an exam. You could read the entire textbook, but instead, you opt to review the summary notes and practice questions, which cover the most important points with less effort. This law demonstrates that people prefer shortcuts, the law of averages. It states that, over a large number of trials, the actual outcomes will eventually even out to the expected probability. Imagine flipping a coin. In a short series of flips, you might get more heads than tails or vice versa. But if you flip the coin thousands of times, the number of heads and tails will be close to equal. That's the law of averages in action. It teaches us that over time things even out. The Peltzman effect. It states that people tend to engage in riskier behavior when safety measures are put in place. Imagine you start driving a car with advanced safety features like anti-lock brakes and lane departure warnings. Feeling more protected, you might drive faster or pay less attention to the road, taking more risks than you would in a less safe car. That's the Peltzman effect in action. Or think about wearing a helmet while cycling. Knowing that you're wearing protective gear, you might ride at higher speeds or take more challenging routes, increasing your overall risk. This demonstrates the Peltzman effect. The law of karma. It states that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Imagine you help a neighbor by shoveling their driveway during winter. Later, when you need help with something, the same neighbor might come to your aid. Your good deed comes back to you in a positive way. That's the law of karma in action. Or think about spreading gossip about a colleague at work. Eventually, that negative behavior might lead to others gossiping about you, or it could damage your reputation. The negative actions you put out come back to affect you. This demonstrates the law of karma. It reminds us that what goes around comes around. Check out this video on my channel. You'll love it. Be sure to subscribe, like and comment.